Welcome inside Under the Microscope. Myself, John Ledyard, along with Brandon Thorne. Really excited to talk about the Steelers' offensive line today. A group that they had some bumps in the road early in the season, didn't play particularly well against Miami or Philadelphia. Both of those were losses, but really have righted the ship and are having a great second half of the season. The last 4 or 5 games, they've been fantastic. I think one of the better units in the NFL. Only given up 3 sacks in that time. I think 2 of those were in this game. Villanueva gave them up the left tackle, probably the weakest link on this offensive line, but still a player who's learning and growing and has a lot of tools. So it's a fun group to highlight. You get to look at Bell's explosiveness a little bit. We'll even look at Stephon Tuitt on the other side of the ball and his matchup with Giants center Weston Richburg. So we'll look at a couple different things in this matchup. A good defensive line for the Giants against a good offensive line for Pittsburgh mostly, but also some things on the other sides of the ball too for each team. So first thing Brandon wants to highlight is David Decastro. I'm excited to hear about that because I see some of Brandon's thoughts on the Steelers offensive line here and there, but nothing consistent. And so I'm excited to see what your thoughts are on Decastro, Brandon.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of Steelers offensive line tape this season. Last season, I watched like pretty much every Cody Wallace game.
Mm-hmm.
So in that I saw, some of these other guys, and then I watched some Marcus Gilbert as well, primarily, and then a little bit of Foster. So Decastro and Villanueva are probably the 2 I've seen the least of, up until this point. However, I loved Decastro at Stanford, and I thought he was going to be good then. He was, most people did, and he's kind of, just filling out his expectations now, I think.
Right.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting to go through him. These first 3 or 4 plays are all Decastro. So we'll just focus on him and see what he does. So yeah, the Giants, they were messing around with these late delayed blitzes a lot in the game, and the Steelers offensive line did a nice job kind of distinguishing stuff up front. But yeah, as we talked about earlier as well, Decastro is one of the best pulling guards in the league. Just a really nice job of bringing his hips and his hands with him right here on the point of contact.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as he explodes his hips and his hands, that guy's,
right,
clearly just getting moved out of the way.
Right.
Nice dig out there.
Yeah, and probably a good example too of when Bell really should have stuck with this read, cut it back, and probably one of the few times I've seen his vision really fail him when I was watching tape on this read. Press that in there. I mean, I know Pouncey, he's kind of shading Pouncey a little bit inside there or to the left there, but you've got to press this read and bang it up in there. Bending this one back at that point, and maybe he thought Jesse James holds that block, which doesn't happen very often, but bending it back just got himself in a world of trouble there when I thought if you follow Decastro, in that position, look at how he clears out the hole. You're as explosive as Bell. You got a chance to wriggle up in there, so.
Right. Yeah, he should have done that. I could see how it, right here, it looked like maybe Decastro wouldn't move him out of the way as easily as he did.
Right.
You know what I mean? But Decastro just does an excellent job, and you're right. I think, if you don't know the outcome right here, take the chance of following, your Pro Bowl right guard. Or,
I think and I think he's afraid Pouncey's getting beat.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that as well, for sure.
And the Giants do a good
across
job.
His face.
Right. The Giants do a good job coming off blocks, too.
Dude, their defensive tackles are so much fun.
Oh, yeah, they have crazy range in those D tackles.
Just their strength, dude, at the point of attack and just leverage and the way they use their hands. And then they play really hard. So as far as plugging those A-gaps, those linebackers, man, if they had a really good linebacker, which I don't think they really do.
Right, they don't.
Oh, man. He would excel big time in this scheme and with his personnel.
Yeah, I said something similar preceding this game, is that you got to take advantage of that because that's where they're weak. And I think if you get past if you got past the first level in this,
for a while.
where there was success.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just saying I think they've been weak there for a while as well. It's kind of weird that they haven't addressed it yet.
Right. I was mocking them, Miles Jack, this past year. So.
Oh man. Yeah. That would be nice
eventually.
to see him play. And so again, Decastro, and they pull him a lot. This is a really nice block. I like this one almost probably a little bit better than the last one almost, just because to halt your path that quickly and pick up that scraping linebacker and to seal that inside, I mean, that saves, the play.
Right. Yeah.
So that's really nice mental processing awareness. And yeah, that was just nice.
And Villanueva too on this play, the left tackle just does a really nice job. I mean, you help out Foster, you fold down this 3 technique coming off the ball. Then once you've given the shoulder there, get to the linebacker on the second level, fit and stay on it. I mean, that's a dominant.
That
you
is
know what I mean? Some good stuff. I mean, that's the thing with Villanueva. He might be a little raw technically, but
really
he's got
nice.
such good tools and such length and power and quickness. He played wide receiver, played tight end in college, and so that sometimes he can survive just with that. And so, yeah, he does a nice job of stopping that linebacker from coming over there for quite a while.
Yeah, the play that we're going to highlight of Villanueva later, one of the positive ones is actually a very similar play of him working to the second level. So just even though I've seen a little of him, that's something I definitely have noted about him as far as in the run game, kind of banging down and helping and moving to the second level and sort of that secondary role in the double team. He's really good. Just to kind of break that double team down, because you could, because there's really 2 different positions on the double team, and you got to kind of, break down both because they require different skill sets.
Right.
But yeah, I think this is Decastro again. Yeah, I really like this block. So it kind of, can get past, if you're just kind of glancing at it, but, on a screen here, typically you just throw this guy and you run. You're just influencing him upfield and you're gone. But he has the wherewithal to kind of recognize that there's nobody to really go get that would affect the play the quickest, and he blocks the right guy here. And that seal inside and turning him like that really, I think, kind of allows Bell to just have a ton of room to operate. So if we watch it again, it looks really subtle, but it's really good awareness again by Decastro. And Bell drops it.
Yeah. Doesn't see that very often, but he had one the other day.
Yeah, and then this play right here is sweet because he really blocks 2 guys, and then Bell comes and helps him.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's awesome.
And Pouncey on that play too is really, just the feet. As this nose is pretty much head up on him. The feet when he tries to counter back to that side, and then Foster eventually does a great. Foster and Decastro are one of their best traits, and you have a play in here. I saw that Decastro shows that help, but their active eyes and ability to stay engaged and find work even when uncovered. Like look at Foster right now. From that whole rep, he's just looking, active feet. Who's going to be the first guy to come inside? Who can I help out the most? You know what I mean? Like both ways, checking. Just very, very, very intense. And the rep matters. And a lot of time when guys are uncovered, they'll kind of lethargically throw themselves. But that's something you see consistently and that's from Mike Munchak, I think, just teaching them always just be alert.
Yes.
And Pouncey probably stays with this nose tackle, honestly, if Foster's not there. Look at the way he mirrors him. Like, he's fine. Yeah. Foster just picks him up. So you like to see that aggressiveness, I think.
I think the key here, too, for Foster, to piggyback on what you're saying, really good awareness and purpose here. But the fact that his spatial awareness is as good as it is to maintain the same level as the center and the left tackle.
Yeah.
So, they're blocking people, and he's on the same level. That's what allows this smooth passover from Pouncey, because the levels right here are outstanding. And I think that goes back to coaching as well. And that's just – I actually mentioned – it's funny you say this – the touchdown pass to Antonio Brown, one of my key points of Decastro, I think it might be the next play, was his ability to stay on the same level as Pouncey, and it really enabled that play to be a touchdown. Right. So that's a really cool trait in pass protection to kind of evaluate.
Yeah. And we talked about Pouncey too, but he's, Alex Kozora, Steelers Depot, always keeps track of the sack stats for these guys, and he hasn't given up any sacks this year, and he has one penalty coming back from a major injury that made him miss all last season with that broken ankle. He's just phenomenal in pass protection. Sometimes I think power guys give him trouble in the run game, and that's his one flaw. I think this was a tough matchup for him with Damon Harrison a lot of the time. But, man, in pass protection or in space or anything like that, it's just he's a special, special player. I don't know that there's any center in the league other than maybe Frederick that can do the kind of things he can do in space and on screens and pulls. And they release him first play of the game. They release him from the line of scrimmage to get downfield and block a linebacker on a swing past the bell. It's just really cool stuff they can do with him. They didn't even do pin and pulls last year, and Cody Walsh did some admirable things, but pin and pulls were almost out last year because he didn't have the same effectiveness that Pouncey does. And now they're back in heavily. The Steelers will use him all the time because Pouncey's just that kind of rare of an athlete. It's fun stuff to watch. And Gilbert does a great job on this rep too.
Yeah, I mean,
you've watched
this is a really, I've watched Gilbert for sure. Yeah, he does this a lot. How he handles the bull rush, how he hops back like that. Yeah. And it's kind of unique. I mean, just to hop back with both feet like that, he does that a lot. And sometimes he'll give up a lot of ground, but that's just kind of his technique, I think. And, it works more than it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. And he and Ben seem to have a good understanding because Villanueva almost treats it the same way a lot of the time. And sometimes you're not sure with him when he's getting bull rush, is it technique or is it, just his style? And he's still trying to figure it out because there's not a ton of tape on him. But they do tend to do that a little bit. They'll give some ground and then try and turn those hips and run them up the arc a little bit. And Ben typically moves pretty well with that. So I think it's something that they have rehearsed a little bit to the point where Ben knows his guys well enough to know, kind of how he has to move in the pocket, I think some.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit. This is just two different plays. This play right here is really just watch to it. He's lined up, shaded right here in the A gap, and he executes a really nice kind of delayed, not even delayed, just the timing and the timing. I think of this is really key. I mean, that was a really nice move.
Nasty little push-pull.
Yeah.
Tuitt worked with Chuck Smith in the offseason. Bud Dupree worked with him in this past offseason. Tuitt the offseason before, and I think again this offseason. And just the difference in his hands between his rookie year and his second year and now third year. I mean, pretty unbelievable what he's been able to do and how much better it's made him as an individual pass rusher. I mean, look at the power of hip snap.
He sets this up for sure. Mm-hmm. His hand placement, I think, is key. I mean, his hands are perfect right now, and that gives him pretty much control to do whatever he wants. And just this right here, I mean, his chest is touching his back, and to get that arm over, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, and one of the things with the push-pull is that slow playing it is kind of key. You want that guy to relax, so you step into the block
to sleep.
Right, yeah, you kind of lull him to sleep, and then it's that quick hip snap and the arm snap, and then you're by him, and you could see that executed pretty much perfectly here.
Tuitt is such a freak of nature, man. Physically, like for how big he is. I remember him coming out of Notre Dame, man. I couldn't believe his frame and his size and his athleticism. It was pretty
I know
crazy.
He had some injury concerns, but him being in the second round, being a second round pick, and for me with the injury concerns,
he's a little raw with his hands. But
yeah. But there was just so much. I mean, freakish range. I did an article for Inside the Pylon before the season started, just about his range is just ridiculous. I mean, you don't see it. You don't see that kind of ability in many defensive linemen. He's probably one of the more underrated defensive players in the league, and I'm pretty critical of Steelers players, even though I cover the team, in evaluating them in the context of the league. And I just think he's a special player that doesn't get enough attention.
Yeah, I think it happened quick too, because it kind of was slow, slow out of the gate for him in his career. But yeah, I think right now he's kind of clicking on all cylinders. Mm-hmm. This is just a nice recovery from Richburg. I mean, again, the lateral quickness here is pretty impressive to cross his face, and then Richburg he's ready for it, and that allows Eli to get the ball off.
Yeah, I got that.
And
throw
it's actually a nice game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So,
talk about
this is a good battle.
Yeah, we talk about this with offensive line play a lot, but it's not always going to be the prettiest reps, but you got to find ways to win. And it looks like he's beaten here. Tuitt's quick, and he gets on his edge. There's a little stumble there from Tuitt. I don't know, that might have been caused by Richburg's contact. It's hard to tell. But, that's what you're talking about with offensive line play. Okay, you lost that initial first part of the rep, but can you finish the rep and win it out and give your quarterback the clean pocket? Because if you've done that, you've won the rep. And Richburg is able to do that, get onto its hip, and like you said, just a good recovery, not to be completely off balance here, but to be able to find yourself again.
Yeah, definitely. This inside hand placement on the strike right here, I think, is key, because that allows him to really just stay leveraged on him, have that kind of that point of contact and that lever to just very smoothly just turn his body and, wash him down. I haven't watched really hardly any of Richburg this year, but I've heard he's, last year I actually made a statement once that I thought he was the best center in the league. I liked him more than Frederick last year, to be honest, just by a hair. Wow. It was a wash.
Yeah.
But yeah, Richburg last year was phenomenal. And this year he's just, from what I've heard, he's just kind of taking a step back a little bit. He's still a good player.
Yeah.
But he's not like an elite guy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see him, because I believe this is his third year.
Yeah,
so
it is.
It'll be interesting to see him in his fourth year, because he's still young. It'll be interesting to see if this is his medium,
right,
or if he's going to really be closer to that elite status.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. So this one right here, I'm pretty sure is Decastro, at least initially, but this is the Villanueva one as well. Yep. Same thing with Villanueva. It's basically exactly what he did before that you pointed out. He just bangs down and just picks up that linebacker that's flowing from the backside. That's a nice deuce block.
And it isn't the best technique. I'm trying to see who that is. I think it's David Johnson, the tight end. He gets caught for a second. If you go, he's the tight end on the furthermost outside there. I think Chris Hubbard's kind of that. They bring that extra offensive lineman on in this situation.
Yeah.
He's outside of Villanueva, Chris Hubbard, and then outside of him is David Johnson. And Johnson kind of does the same. That means the deuce with Hubbard here on Olivier Vernon to seal that edge. And then he works to Kennard, the linebacker, number 59, really pretty smoothly. He gets caught at first in the chest, then he repositions his hands and really is able to win the rep pretty dominantly.
Yeah, and I think this I'm pretty sure this would be called a tray block. Just
tight end
tackle.
Right, tight end tackle, yeah. I'm thinking double, yeah.
Block. Deuce is the tackle guard, but either way, I didn't even really watch them on this. That was nice though.
But look at
it's amazing. Yeah,
good stuff.
The effort. Yeah, for sure. And then Decastro. He's coming. I love the way he comes with this block.
And honestly, if you're
he's not messing around, man.
If you're Apple, that's actually a pretty good job for a corner, I think.
Yeah,
because,
it is.
A rookie corner to come up and take on a guard. All you're really going to do in this situation is take out a blocker,
right?
And hopefully cause a pile.
Strongly.
And that's all you can really do. So I actually thought this was a good play for Apple, even though he kind of gets smashed pretty good. That's really you can't ask for much more than that in that situation, I don't think, from a corner, because if you stand up and try to take him on, you're going to get blown 10 yards downfield, and at least slow things up and try and cause a pile up. It's
and he even did it with really good aggression.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't just kind of I've seen a lot of DBs. Okay, coach, take out the legs, but they basically fall down.
Right. And given the situation, Landon Collins is coming from like 12 yards deep. I thought he did a decent job there coming up and setting the edge. Jesse James is not a bad block. You'd love to see him get his hips around, but ultimately I thought Collins saved this from potentially being a touchdown. Kennard's in pursuit there too, but just did a good job chasing Bell, making him continue to work laterally rather than get straight upfield there. Tough to ask for more from a safety coming from deep, so a lot of interesting elements to that play.
Yeah, dude, Landon Collins is playing out of his mind.
Playing great football.
Yeah, this right here is Decastro. So pretty much what I said earlier about maintaining your level. And I mean, Gilbert gets just beat pretty cleanly here by Jason Pierre-Paul. And Decastro's awareness, his mental processing here, I would definitely note. Spatial awareness, maintaining levels, and then that's really the key to this play. That most people, when I saw this play initially, I mean, Antonio Brown, this is an incredible play from Ben and Antonio Brown,
right?
So it's very easy to get distracted with that. I totally get it, but I don't think it would have been possible without Decastro. So he's kind of the catalyst for the whole play. And it's really nice, I think.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned this because I tweeted this out yesterday, this play, and said that, and I wrote about it in my All-22 review that went up this morning on Scout.com, and how, Decastro, the unsung hero of this play. In live, I'm at the stadium in the press box. I saw him pick up a guy, and I saw Ben. I didn't realize how close it was and how cleanly Gilbert got beaten. I mean, you'll watch all season and not see Gilbert get beat that badly again. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen him get beat that badly. And so for Decastro, to be as aware as he is, look at the active eyes, and then you find him and just get on that hip, ride him up, and Ben does the rest. And that's just great understanding between offensive line play and also the quarterback. We always talk about the quarterback being an extension of the offensive line. The running backs, tight ends, those guys being an extension of the offensive line. And this is the kind of movement that Eli Manning does it too. He's really good moving in the pocket. Not Ben level maybe, but good at, and that's why a Giants offensive line that certainly has some holes is only giving up like 14 or 16 sacks or something this season because they just Eli's that good in the pocket, and so Ben's ability to do this is nice too. But Decastro, the unsung hero of this play, I think. This was a huge play in the game. This was, it was 5-0 at this point. Steelers had a bunch of drives bogged down. This was on a second or third down, I want to say. A sack here puts him in a tough situation, obviously. And this was right after Lawrence Timmons' interception that was kind of, took away his points from the Giants.
That was a nice interception, too.
Yeah, great play. So, very, very crucial block by Decastro, and not the only time that he did that in the game, too. A couple times he was able to help out and save the day, too, in this game. So, good, one of his better games, I thought, especially in pass protection where he can sometimes be a little shaky.
Yeah. Maintaining the depth of the pocket as an offensive lineman, especially when you're surrounded by two guys. So for guards and centers, it's very, very critical that those three stay sort of on the same level because games happen in the middle a lot, and you want to be able to pass those off smoothly. So really nice. And then just this flick of the wrist, the other copy, the sideline copy shows right here, Ben, when he's pointing, Antonio Brown is like on the right corner of the end zone, and he starts running back. And Ben there's a safety coming over, and Ben just baits him. And this little flick of the wrist, he's looking a little to the right and running to the right, and he throws it to his left.
Yeah.
And it's just a nice throw.
And look at the
really
diagonal.
Nice.
The path of the ball is crazy to watch from this angle. Back across his body on a line where only the receiver can get. And the coverage by Jenkins was great. The coverage was great. This is Ben, man.
Yeah, he's my favorite quarterback in the league, man. Just to watch, just because of the stuff like this, him outside the pocket, like his extend play ability, and then, he keeps his eyes downfield so well. Yeah, despite whatever's in front of him.
I see what you mean about moving that safety too.
Yeah, it was really nice. And Brown just times that perfectly. His ball skills were on display there for sure. It was nice. Yeah. Just 3 different levels. That's a really nice play.
Yeah, fun play.
Pouncey here, pass protection, maintaining the level thing. This is kind of the theme now at this point, but it's critical. He does a nice job of getting depth here to pick up that. That's Vernon, actually. That 54 confuses me, but sometimes I think it's a linebacker.
Right, and he's not that big either, so.
Right. Yeah, so just a really nice job right there to handle the stunt between the left guard and the center.
And look at the pocket for Ben. Look at it. It's
It's
the finish
nice.
of the play. I mean, that's clean, man. That's what you want. I mean, yes, it's going to get compressed a little bit. It almost always is on those twists, but
Yeah.
it's still really clean pocket. And Foster does a great job too, picking up Pierre Paul.
Yeah, this was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
You don't usually see a stunt from two guys that are that far apart.
Check out
You know,
Villanueva here. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. His go-to move last year was kind of this. See how he yanks down on Kennard's arms? When guys try and long arm or bull rush him, he would just smash down on their arms and see how Kennard's head kind of bobs forward there. He would bring a couple guys to the ground with it last year. Here he doesn't go quite to that extent, but that's an I always
nice
thought
job.
that was interesting because it's one of the only ways because he gets beat by the bull rush. He's 6'9", so it's going to happen. Guys are going to get in his frame sometimes, but that's one of the ways he battled it last year, and this year I haven't seen it nearly as much. But it's an interesting technique. Does that you see other guys use that ever? I don't. Tyron Smith, I think, uses it, right?
Yeah, Tyron Smith's his move basically, or his theme move of his skill set is this. But I mean, when he does it, it's obviously very different.
So you're going to the ground.
Yeah, it's much more powerful.
Yeah.
And I think this worked too for him because he's going against such, Kennard is, I don't know, under 250.
Yeah.
So you should be able to kind of ragdoll that guy a little bit. But still, I like that technique because it keeps guys off balance.
Right.
If they're gonna scream down the middle at you and try to take you down, I mean they're gonna think twice about it just because they know that they may not have their arms and they're gonna fall on their face. So it probably affects other guys differently. It just depends on the mentality of the player, I guess. But this right here, Pouncey, and nice job by Green, I think, as well. So tight end over here and then the center. And then Bell takes that. I mean, that's a huge game. But yeah, just a nice job of Green, really. And then Pouncey just cleans it up and just gives Bell a huge
kind
of opening there.
Makes that linebacker miss. And Decastro's reach block is huge here because Hankins is super rangy and probably makes this play, but Decastro, I mean, just completely cuts him off. I mean, he's just a wall between him and the ball carrier. And Foster does the same thing. So both of them able to reach those defensive tackles cleanly allows this huge cutback lane. And all he has to do is make Casillas miss basically in space. Done and done.
Yep. And then he takes that 30 or 40 yards, I think.
Yeah. And that's what you're talking about with Bell. You get that special ability. It's just a great presence of mind to be able to see that, attack a guy in space who's already overcommitted to the sideline, and bust that in. They're just really active eyes and a great vision on this run.
Yeah, he is so smooth, man, in his cuts. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's fun to watch.
This is the sack that Vernon gets right here. So this is actually a man protection, at least to the left, between the guard and the tackle. So they got these guys just on their own. And Villanueva's set is not good. He just oversets big time. And he basically, I like to say, just put the welcome mat down for Vernon to just have a clear path to the quarterback. So Bell right here, because it's man, he's reading outside. So you could see why this happened. I still think Bell could have done a little more there, but yeah, it's definitely on Villanueva.
Yeah, I think Bell was not expecting him to get beat that quickly and cleanly.
Yeah. No. He just oversets him, man, and
I'm
not sure. It's just odd.
We talk about that half man, and here it's probably he's giving him too much. That first, is it the second step that really screws him up here? It looks like that first step he's okay. And then the second step.
Probably the second step. Just gets a little too far. It's just his weight distribution, really. I mean, I don't know. You want him, this position right here looks like he's on flat feet.
Right.
I don't know. He just maybe because he's so tall, his leverage is he's definitely at a disadvantage. He needs to get lower, I think, than this. And he needs to just be lower throughout the entire rep as opposed to just getting low right here and then trying to react. It's just not going to work. So yeah, I think, just looking at him for the first time, really like kind of like in depth like this, I really think his leverage, his up and down leverage, which is, maintained and obtained through your pad level, I think is not good here. So reacting inside is kind of out of the question. So, you always want to set the guy inside out, basically. You want to have that half-man leverage, but you want to have it inside, if that makes sense. So he doesn't have that and, just can't react inside. So I think that's kind of probably 2 or 3 issues there maybe that contributed to that. And yeah, doesn't really give, his team a chance there. I mean, I was talking to Duke about him recently, and he just basically told me that he thinks he's a guy you win in spite of. You don't win with him, or you don't win because of him. You win in spite of him. Right. So just basically saying he's below average, but I think it's just because his pass protection is so below average, maybe even, a little bit below that on the scale, that it kind of affects his whole, the view of him. But I think what we saw today in the run game definitely lends itself to say that, like, he has some solidly good traits in there. It's just pass protection is the most nuanced part of being an offensive lineman. It's the most unnatural thing you do as an offensive lineman because you're moving. You're first, especially a tackle, you're in space. You're not used to being in space, obviously, as an offensive lineman, and it's very unnatural moving backwards, trying to stop, a freak athlete. So, I think the time factor of him not having, like we mentioned, the reps and the coaching has affected him. But he's getting great coaching here. So if he's ever going to become something, I think, it has to happen soon because he's 28.
So. I don't know that he'd be anything at most other NFL locations, but with Munchak, he's been able to become a serviceable player, and I think Duke's spot on. You definitely don't win because of him. He is a guy that in pass protection especially, he can make it work sometimes because he's a very good athlete, and he's very long, and he's pretty powerful, and he works extremely hard, and he doesn't give up on any reps. So because of that, he's normally able to make something happen and make it. He doesn't get beat super cleanly a lot of the time is probably the best way to say it. Sometimes he maybe holds a little bit. Sometimes he's running guys up the arc every single rep. He's given a lot of ground and Ben's flushed out the other way. But because Ben is so good in the pocket, if he can sense that at all, usually he can make a move where Villanueva can finish his block and put Villanueva in a better position. But with a lot of other offensive line coaches and a lot of other quarterbacks, I don't think he'd be able to start every game like he has this season. He's been a serviceable player this year. Clearly the worst player on the offensive line. But I think most teams in the NFL would love to have him as their number 3 offensive tackle, a guy that needs to come in if he needed to come into a game. And there's probably a couple in real bad spots like Seattle where he'd be a starting material. I don't think the Steelers envision him as a long-term starter here, but that's kind of where I see him right now as a player.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I'm pretty much, obviously I can't speak to him too much. I really haven't watched him a lot, but just from what I've heard and just seen today, you could definitely see what you're saying for sure. I mean, he does have some positives, physically and, but pass blocking is just one of those things. Technique is king, especially in pass blocking. I mean, it matters in run blocking, but pass blocking, I mean, you could be the best athlete ever. That doesn't really mean much at all. I mean, you'll be able to compete a little bit better, but you're not going to be able to get the job done with that.
Right.
So, maybe he'll learn though. Maybe he's on the cusp and, he's just going to hit a breakthrough. Who knows? I mean, he's 28, but he's a young 28, I think, in some ways, just as an offensive lineman. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to watch him moving forward.
Right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Looking at the Steelers' offensive line, looking a little bit at Weston Richburg, and just this was a fun matchup in the trenches, I think, because there's really a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, offensive line, defensive line for both these teams. So yeah, interesting to take a look at those guys and get some of your thoughts on some Steelers stuff. So always fun doing these under the microscopes. Let us know, guys, what you think of them, if you want to see more or less of anything else. As we near the draft process and we near some of that, we may start looking at some prospects here and there as the regular season winds down. And that could be a fun time. We don't have the advantage of the All-22 a lot of the time with that, but we do have the ability to look at some players even with the broadcast tape and break them down a little bit for you guys too. So that will be another fun aspect of what we do moving forward, I think. So yeah, thanks for checking out Under the Microscope. As always, we'll get this one up for you guys shortly, and you guys can check it out. Let us know what you think, and we'll catch you guys again next time.